And so begins the summer grind, a bombardment of shows day in and day out. Here in the heartland of America, a day off for the working man of the farm fields is another day at the office for those who take part in this supersized spectacle. We are literally on Main Street here in Princeton, Illinois, as the Bureau County Fairgrounds hosts week number 2 of the Overdrive Monster Truck Tour, brand new tour here for 2023. We are ready for show 1 of 2 this weekend. We'll be coming back here later this evening for more action. It'll be on another coverage edition of this Overdrive Monster Truck Tour, and we come into today's action with 5 monster trucks out here under the sun. It's going to get a bit hot before the afternoon is over, but the fans are undercover. They're going to be watching the action from the main grandstands there. Nice and cool where they are, but the heat could negatively affect these blower motors. We'll wait and see if that's a problem. These guys, though, are ready to go. And remember, we have the Stunt Showdown. Then we'll go into racing competition. That will include a qualifying round, and only the top 4 make it out of that qualifying round and into the first round of racing. And then, of course, we wind it all up with Monster Truck Freestyle. Couple of stories coming into today's action. One of them, the big story, the home state hero Brad Shippert in Against the Grain. He's dealing with engine problems. They have their backup motor in the truck this weekend. After blowing the number 1 engine, the backup motor is giving them troubles. We will see if they can make it into that racing bracket. He'd like to challenge these guys for the points, but we're going to get underway right now with that Stunt Showdown competition and a truck that used to be part of the Illinois contingent, now out of Litchfield, Minnesota. In fact, the original builder and driver is on hand this weekend, helping out, watching the action. That'd be Jim Burns. This truck now driven and owned by Josh Baumgartner. Mechanical Mischief. Taking on some fresh iron in the big Chevrolet out of Cold Country. One-of-a-kind chassis underneath this truck. Had a chance to look at 2 of the former Jim Burns machines this year, and this one, the original, hit number 2, and that car did not want to give way. I don't think he's going to let it stop him. Let's see if he goes for it again. I don't know if the 3rd hit will count, but it was awesome as he stood it straight up and down on the rear wheels. Did a little favor for the man behind him as he pushed the side of that car down. He'll be able to get a little bit better hit off of it, not risk going over backwards. But this will set the stage for today's competition. You see right there, rear wheels hit that car and came to a dead stop. He did not want to roll that thing over backwards. You can see that body beaten up a little bit already. That 3rd hit, though, as I said, I don't know if it'll count, but it was awesome. A 22 to open up the Stunt Showdown competition, and here is the home state hero, Brad Shippert. And you can hear his engine not at 100%. We'll see how he does here out of Dixon, Illinois, Against the Grain. And he definitely is having engine problems. That is coolant that you see blowing out of there right now, as he has got a head gasket leak and a couple of other things going wrong with this. You can hear it's not making the horsepower that he is going to need. There's a timing issue that's very evident right now. They're going to keep working on this truck throughout the afternoon, so keep your eye on it as the weekend goes on. See right there, he lets off the throttle. That fluid builds up. And then when he gets back on the throttle, it blows it all out the headers, and that's where you're seeing all that coolant come out of the engine. That white smoke that you're seeing out of there, he's just blowing that coolant out, but I guarantee you that is getting into parts of the engine it shouldn't, and it can hurt the lubrication. A score of 20, not bad. He didn't do a bad job considering the engine problems he is having now. Legend in the sport out of Charles City, Iowa, Rod Schmidt. Redneck Rampage made his bones in some of the old equipment built by Jerry Richmond and Kirk Dabney, and now in this awesome Patrick chassis Redneck Rampage. This truck actually used to be Mike Hawkins' equalizer and living a very different life under Rod Schmidt. Going for a stop, he got a big old wheelie going into it. That didn't help him, but old guard trying the new tricks, and you got to take those risks. As the great Scott Heaton says, high risk, high reward. Problem is, if it doesn't work, it'll hurt your score. A 21 for Rod Schmidt out of Charles City, Iowa, the former Gravedigger driver, trying to get into the top of the field. Here comes Preston Perez out of Frederick, Maryland, by way of Spokane, Washington. And this is a guy we've seen throughout his career. Drove for Mike Voners, drove for Sam Sturgis early on. We saw him go out west, drive for guys like Bill Payne. We saw him drive for Jimmy Creighton, and now at the wheel of Toxic. Flying high. Perez trying to get the points on the afternoon early on. You see truck owner Jay Snyder down there in the Illuminator crew shirt. We'll be seeing that truck in just a moment. Right now, though, Perez trying to make life hard on his teammate Corey Snyder. Gets the stoppie into the moonwalk. Tough to do on those narrow K-rails. It may look a little clumsy, but that took some talent there as he launched the truck to open things up. Huge hang time out of the beaten and battered Ford with the big block Chevy in the back. Out of the old line state. Man from the Pacific Northwest doing the driving. Family man, travels with his wife and his son, and up and down the road with the crew. Jay, Corey, and Kevin Rico out here this weekend. Everybody on hand for this action. Here comes another Ford, this time with an Oldsmobile in the back. Corey Snyder in Illuminator. Hammering down, trying to mash those crush cars. Remember, they'll be hitting them the other way for racing. Snyder kind of putting on a mini freestyle here. I don't know if he's even worried about the score right now. Going the other way on the van stack. Slap wheelie out the end and gets in a little bit of trouble down there. You see him take a hard right. There's a little drainage ditch and a creek down there, so he had to take evasive action. I think he flat out forgot that there were some obstructions in that field. It just looks like grass, but you get down there, it takes a dip in a hurry. Not a bad showing for Snyder. And again, I don't know if he was going after Perez or not, but Preston definitely made life hard for anyone that was going to come up behind him. Let's see what Snyder gets. After that run, a beautiful slap wheelie again, though, having to shoot off to the right. A 25 in the Stunt Showdown. Not bad for the Illuminator.
Anytime, these things cost so much to run, the only practice we get most of the time is out here on the floor. But you know what? This win right here is the first one so far this weekend. Hopefully there's more. But I want to dedicate this first win to my awesome crew. Everybody just busted butt and worked hard these last 2 weeks to get everything here, to come here in Princeton, Illinois. I just want to dedicate this to them. But you know what? We're just getting started. There's a whole lot more coming. Give it up for Preston.
Great start for Preston Perez in Toxic. Opens up strong on the weekend. We'll see if he can hang in there. And remember, we've got qualifying round action coming up next. Only the top 4 make it into the racing bracket. The question right now, can Brad Shippert, the home state hero, get his truck running at 100%? We will find out when we come back to the Bureau County Fairgrounds with the Overdrive Monster Truck Tour. Stay with us.
This Back Channel Productions program is brought to you in part by Monsters Monthly. Stay up to date with photos, videos, event info, and more at monstersmonthly.com. And by Crush This. For an inside look at the monster truck phenomenon, check out Crush This, a Monster Truck podcast.
There's only one place in the world you can find this much old school cool. Freedom Racing Monster Trucks. The home of Cyclops and Unnamed and Untamed. Get yourself a limited edition toy at freedomracingmt.com.
This Back Channel Productions program is brought to you in part by RPM Army, the place to get your motorsports fix.
Back in Princeton, Illinois at the Bureau County Fairgrounds, getting ready for qualifying round action. As I've mentioned several times already, only the top 4 of these 5 will make it into the racing bracket, and we're going to start things off just like we did at the Stunt Showdown competition. This is Josh Baumgartner out of Litchfield, Minnesota, in the former Illini Chevrolet there with that big block mic horsepower in the back. Mechanical Mischief looking to set the pace here in qualifying. It's probably about a 5-second track on an average run, so we'll see what these guys can do, see if they can get down in that sub 5-second range as Baumgartner will set the pace here in qualifying. Awesome finish line launch. He goes all the way out the end there, and you can hear the thing is definitely making horsepower as we were a little worried about the heat negatively affecting these big blower motors, but they didn't. Look at that. Already down in the sub 5-second territory, a 4:55 to start things off here in qualifications, but you'll notice he had to correct in no man's land, so that's our first look at the right lane. Keep your eye on him here. You'll see him make a maneuver to get the truck back on the ramp, not only to make sure it was a legal run, but you do not want to hit those things wide open with a tire hanging off. You could violently flip one of these trucks if you were to do that. Up next, the Alien against the grain, and you can see it's still boiling over, trying to get this thing figured out, and I have a feeling this is going to be kind of a shakedown show for the home state hero. Carrying the flag for RC Fest, he'd like to make a better showing than that, but take nothing away from Brad Shipper. A 508 with an ailing truck is not too bad. The horsepower just will not come up for him quickly. He's not getting the takeoff that he needs to really be competitive here in racing, but once it gets rolling, you can hear it kind of comes around for him as the Iowa-based Redneck Rampage rolls out. The Patrick chassis machine. Chevy horsepower in the back, Chevy body. Rod Schmidt, former Gravedigger driver, looks to qualify. Took a big risk there as he also had to correct, but a great hole shot for that truck. We'll see what he ends up with. A 455 is what he was shooting for, a 426. To take the top spot. That'll push Baumgartner to second and Shipper to third. As the dust settles, we will bring up our next machine momentarily. Another look at the run. Watch this. He comes over to the right-hand side, similar to Baumgartner. He kind of made the same evasive maneuver there to keep it away from the wall, but it came back around much more quickly. Kind of rode the outside edge of that ramp, and that worked out in his favor now as Preston Perez will also qualify out of the right lane. So we have seen 2 sub 5-second runs out of this right lane. Corey Snyder will qualify finally in the left lane. We will see where he ends up. But right now, Perez trying to beat that 426. Big top end in charge, but I don't know if he got enough out of the hole to take the number 1 spot. 2/10 off. He'll go into second place right now with a 4:46. That'll push Mechanical Mischief down into third, and that also means that Brad Shippard is now sitting on the bump spot. So Chevy is on top of this thing right now. You see Perez had to make a little maneuver there after the first roller got off the throttle, tried to kind of trip the roller, maybe get it on the ground faster. It didn't quite work the way I think he had hoped, as Corey Snyder comes out now in the Illuminator. 557 cubic inches of big block Oldsmobile horsepower. Kevin Stauffer building the engines out of Waynesboro, Pennsylvania for the team out of Frederick, Maryland. Interesting run, but the truck stayed on the ground. 426 is what he was shooting for. Look at that. 1/100th. Into the top spot, Corey Snyder, your number 1 qualifier. That'll bump Brad Shippard out of the bracket. And that means that we will see Snyder going into the next round to take on Mechanical Mischief, who ran a 425. Then Redneck Rampage will take on Toxic. That'll be our first 2 matchups when we come back in just a moment. One more look at that qualifying run, and you can see Snyder, a little bit of bobble in the middle, but he was on the ground for the majority of the run through no man's land, spent the least time in the air, and that worked out in his favor. Stay with us. Round 1 coming up. Back in America's heartland, Princeton, Illinois, under the sun. Beautiful weather here at the Bureau County Fairgrounds. A little bit hot. The crowd in the covered grandstands, though, enjoying the cool of the shade as we get ready for round 1 of side-by-side monster truck drag racing competition. A little old-school 2-jump course here. Roller into the big flyaway jump at the finish, reminiscent of the old Camel Super Series or the Penda Point Series, but some awesome racing yet to come. This has been a very fast track so far, and I guarantee you these guys are only going to get quicker as Illuminator comes up to battle Mechanical Mischief. That's number 1 and number 4 out of qualifying, and then it will be Toxic and Redneck Rampage battling number 2 and number 3, respectively. So our first pairing will pit the Oldsmobile-powered Ford against the Chevy-powered Chevy. Kevin Stauffer's 557 cubic inch Oldsmobile against that big block Mike. 540 in the back of Mechanical Mischief. Wow, who won that one? Very, very close pairing right there. Illuminator looked to have maybe a little edge going into no man's land, but it did appear that Baumgartner may have been coming back, and we'll get a better look at it here now. I take that back. Baumgartner had a great run through no man's land or into no man's land, excuse me, and Snyder had to fight back there at the end. Watch it one more time as they come across 2 of the straightest runs we have seen so far today. Maybe a little edge to the Ford, but we have still not been told who won that race. We will keep you posted on that as Preston Perez rolls out. He would like to, even though he's driving a Chevy-powered machine, you can see he's got that blue oval on the front. He'd like to keep the Ford fans happy as he matches up against a member of the Bowtie Brigade, the Redneck Rampage. Pair of Patrick chassis machines, one out of Iowa, one out of Maryland. 540 cubic inches in the back of both of these trucks. Pretty even matchup here, but the experience has to go to the left lane and Rod Schmidt out of Iowa. Another very close matchup, but Schmidt will take the victory at a 4:22. Be what, 800s at the end there is Toxic coming up just a little bit short. Again, very, very close racing here. Both of them with a good run through no man's land, but a little bit smoother for the Chevy on the far side of the track. Right now, we're going to go back to our first round matchup as we wait to find out who actually got the win here. There you see it, a 422 to a 425 advantage Illuminator, and now we bring the Mechanical Mischief and Toxic machines back to the line for the third place, the Consi race. See what these guys can do here. Fastest time of the day so far is a 422, and I'm looking at it right now. Redneck Rampage and Illuminator both ran 422s, so we have matching times going into our final pairing. But first, we're going to settle who takes third place out of Princeton, Illinois. It will either be Toxic or Mechanical Mischief here in the third place race. But Perez had the drive going through no man's land, but he hops off the side of the track wisely, backs out of it, and gathers it up before he gets into that stone wall there. Could have done a lot of damage, so heads up driving for him, and you can see 2/10 difference at the end. Baumgartner speeding things up. 424, by the way. He's been consistent all day long, and he's only 200s off our two fastest times, or our single fastest time run by two different competitors. I love the way Baumgartner shoots that finish line jump. Front end riding high. Truck lands beautifully. Jim Burns built a great piece back when he originally built that thing, and Baumgartner has really improved on the geometry of that machine and made it something that has come around to this new age of monster trucks and these real heavy machines you see right there. It's Snyder playing a little game. He did that earlier, trying to take the top off the jump, and people are going to call that cheating. He did it in both lanes now, so it's even on both sides, but he's not the only one that I've seen try that now. As Illuminator and Redneck Rampage battle it out here in the championship race in Princeton, Illinois. Again, side by side, right to the finish line, but Illuminator will pick up the victory, a 412 to a 421, just over 1/10 faster. This was some of the best racing we have seen so far this season, and Corey Snyder will take the big win right here in Princeton, Illinois, his first drive on the Overdrive Monster Truck Tour.
Corey, awesome job out there, man. Tell me about that track. How'd it feel for you out there?
Felt good. Just trying to stay on the straight and narrow and stay in my lane. I know it just like sometimes it'll take the wheel out of your hand and kind of you have to get your stuff back in order. But if you stay straight and you concentrate on that light, ain't nobody gonna touch you.
Awesome. Well, that's a win for Team 4 here today. I have a trophy that I'm giving you to Corey Snyder.
Hey, welcome to Wild Man Adventures. We're at the Silver Lake Sand Dragway. There really wasn't any off-roading back then. It was all off-road. We're on our way to Lima, Ohio. Got wooden wheels.
Oh, it's slippery as all get out of.
Hey, we're here with Rich Cummins. Hey, we're here with Mike Potter. Hey, we're here with Alan Pizzo. Gotta check it out. This week we're gonna go down memory lane.
Well, we had 2 Chevys and 2 Fords make it into the racing bracket, and Ford took the better of Chevrolet in racing, but we still have Freestyle yet to go. The Fords are 2 of 3, so we know that the Ford body team out of Maryland will be going out of here with the bragging rights, at least out of the afternoon show, as we get ready for Freestyle action. Saw Gideon Bernard, the promoter, go walking off there. He's down on the floor. He doesn't sit idly by and watch his promotion get run. He's down here with the rest of the crew in the dirt, making sure this thing goes off without a hitch. It's Josh Baumgartner out of Litchfield, Minnesota, in the big, bad Chevy Mechanical Mischief with former owner Jim Burns trackside, watching his old machine run here in its former home state. Again, Baumgartner will set the stage. That thing might look a little rough right now cosmetically. It's just fiberglass. One of the best tuned trucks we've seen all year long. That thing has plenty of horsepower to get the job done. It looks like he's lining up for the RV. Didn't want to leave it for anybody else. He didn't try to leap over it. He just mauled that thing. And now he's stuck in there. He's going to try to get it off, but he may have just done himself in. You can tell by the front, he runs an open front end, so he can't get both front wheels to bite. The rear is grabbing, trying to push him off of that thing, but he's doing everything he can, rocking it back and forth. He gets it off of there, and the crowd is loving it here in Princeton. What does Baumgartner have left in the big Chevrolet out of Minnesota? One last big air shot to wind it up in front of the main grandstands. Josh Baumgartner and Mechanical Mischief setting the stage brilliantly. For the other 4 trucks behind him, and he, I said, did not leave that for anyone else. Didn't really have to worry about that body. Score of 21 to open up Freestyle here this afternoon in Princeton, Illinois. Up next, Against the Grain and Brad Shippert. The big Ford out of Illinois carrying the colors for RC Fest on the back. Look them up on Facebook, a great organization with a great cause. You can see the truck is getting up and making horsepower now that he can really get in it and kind of stay in it, but it was still blowing a lot of coolant out of the exhaust, so it's still sucking that stuff into the crankcase, and that's not a good sign. As he is probably making methanol milkshakes in that oil pan right now, and we'll see what he's able to do when he bumps the wall right there. Didn't sound great, but it didn't sound too bad once he was able to get in the power, and he still put on a show for his home state fans. Again, not what he was looking for, but take nothing away from Shipper. He still came out and competed at the top of the game he had available to him, and he's got another show to get figured out. It does look like they got some power back in it. Maybe fix a timing issue that they were having earlier, but they've got multiple problems going on in that truck right now. Not a bad run, though, for the man from right here in Illinois. 17, not going to get him to the top, but he'll have more for us later in the year and later on this weekend. Right now is Redneck Rampage comes out to do that. Shaved Goodyears in the front, cut and shaved Firestones in the back. He's got all the grip he needs on this loose, silty topsoil. And again, you've seen this all year long. You can water these tracks as much as you want. When the sun comes out like this, it just bakes that topsoil. And really, you got to start digging down deep to get to moist dirt. Look at that. That's some slick grass out there in the field. He wants to line up to the van stack, but he cannot get a straight shot at it. Awesome hit off the back of the rollers. I didn't think there would be much off of those things. Thought they would kind of blow apart, but they did not. And he will wrap it up right there. And I mentioned getting a lot of air off those rollers. Sean Baker and Gideon Bernard doing due diligence out here this weekend, building this track with the elevated race lanes and the awesome van stack. These guys are getting plenty of air off that thing, and they can really launch it in both directions. That was great right there. Wanted a little more. I have a feeling there's plenty more air to come here in these last two competitors, but a 23, not bad to take over the lead for Rod Schmidt. Let's see if he can hang in there, though, as Preston Perez is certainly not one to leave anything on the table. In fact, been known to get himself in trouble sometimes with some of his truck owners. Likes to run a little bit hard, but I have a feeling he's going to play the game smart, but he'll be as spectacular as he can be as these guys work the track right out in front of Main Street, carrying the blue oval colors under the big blue oval in the background. So one of the great things here is they've got all that room to get turned around so they can really come back and hit whatever they want. Look at that. He wanted a piece of that RV. There wasn't much left to hit. Comes right back to the van stack. So far, move to move, I'd say the best we've seen. But still, gonna have to work to try to overtake the likes of Rod Schmidt, Josh Baumgartner. Huge launch out into the grass. Coming back with a big charge. Giving them all the hang time they want now. Trying to show off the driving skills again on that narrow K-rail. Again, into the moonwalk. That is so hard on rear end parts. When you slam them down like that. I have a feeling this is going to be a takeover run. We will see when the scores come in. One more off the van stack. Brings it to a stop in front of the crowd, in front of Austin Ashley at the announcer's booth. And again, probably move to move the best run we've seen. That has to be a takeover run right there. Perez comboing. Using what was left of the RV there, those ruins that he was running over. And I think right there he may have wanted to slap wheelie, but he started to get over to the right, over near that wall, and he did not want to risk that. This was incredible hang time. Let's see what the score will be for Preston Perez, shooting at a 23. 27 for Perez to take over the lead in a big way with 1 to go. It's his teammate Corey Snyder, the Frederick, Maryland-based Illuminator. This thing does not really get to show off. I think maybe its best aesthetic quality of the glowing lights here under the sun, but it is still a beautiful machine. Simple yet unique. Losing him out there in the dust. He is just dirt tracking it. He would love to get another slap wheelie out of that thing. I'm telling you right now, it's one of his favorite things to pull off. The fans love it. He's showing that raw horsepower. About 1,450 horsepower in this heavy, heavy machine right here, built by the metal shop. Kind of a unique roar that those big pulling motors make, and that right there is all he is just laying on the throttle out there in the grass. Looks like he's going to wrap it up right now, and he's out of our line of sight, but he's cutting a donut out there in the empty space that used to be our hot pit. There's nothing over there, so had a little advantage going to that corner. brings it to a stop. The big blue Ford out of Maryland. Corey Snyder in Illuminator. Shooting at a 27. It was an awesome run, but was it enough to jump over Preston Perez in Toxic? The teammates kind of dominating things here this weekend so far. They've got a whole nother show to go, but the Fords out of Maryland looking real strong in this first afternoon of competition. And this was actually my favorite thing he did. Just full throttle across the grass, chewing up the sod, and right back to the van stack for a little hang time of 26. He'll come up 1 point short of teammate Preston Perez, but the word we get is the way the points worked out, and with his racing points and the fact that he ended up so close to the top twice, he will be our afternoon overall champion. What a great weekend it's been so far. We've got one more show to go from here in Princeton. As the sun will start to go down, it'll cool off, should build a little more horsepower. We'll bring these big monsters back out. Stay tuned for that action coming up right here on Back Channel Productions. Thank you for joining us. A big thanks to the Overdrive crew. We will see you next time.